If I'm a guessing man, every 4th of July weekend, there's going to be an Angel Studios movie of Sound of Blank, and it might have to do with children every single time. Last July, we had Sound of Freedom. This July, we have Sound of Hope. Save the children, but in a different way. Chase Lee Hockey here with the Blue Futon reviewing Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. What it's about? Pretty simple premise. This is based in 1996, East Texas. The town is called Possum Trot, and you have a small niche community, and they're like, and something bad happens to the pastor's family, and she's like, God called on to me, I need to do some adoptions. And the pastor's like, are you sure? And she's like, no, we need to do it. So they do. But there's hardships in it because some of these kids come from broken homes. The mothers, pimp their children out, beat them, drugs, abuse, and everything like that. And can you make these kids, I want to say calm down, but welcoming them into a new loving environment? And this talks about, I would say, about a 2-year span with mostly them, that family, but also the community as a whole. So did I like this film? I thought it was a well-crafted movie that it does a very good job with continuing on this Save the Children storyline because, of course, Sound of Freedom was about sex trafficking. This one's about the foster system, how there's like over 400,000 churches, but there's 100,000 kids in the adoption system or foster families. So I think the moral of the story is, I don't think it is there's enough people, enough churches go around to save all the children in the United States. Now, I think it's interesting because there is one powerful scene in this movie. There's a couple of them, but the big one is, very small church. They get no money. It's all, small town oriented. And being in high school in East Texas, I've seen churches like that. You'll just be wandering around a county road and all of a sudden, boom, a church. And you're just like, do people actually go to this church? And I think it does a very good job with that setting. Me being Roman Catholic, it's more like a traditional church where it's not a lot of jumping, singing. It's very traditional, 45 minutes in, out, there you go. I'm going to guess this is more Baptist and how they do their services. But what I'm trying to get at is there's a good scene where they go to a church and the church is like, we need to raise $1 million for this cruise and make this church better. And there's a very solid line that me and my mom always talk about is where you see these big churches, right? And all the money going into it. And you're like, this is vast. Is this excessive? And the more you think about it is like, they usually get money from the rich to help who? You ain't helping the poor because there's so many people outside the church that could use your help, but a lot of people don't use that money for help. So there is kind of a good, cross-examination of that. The way it looks, it's a fantastic looking film. It really felt like I was in East Texas. And this is not like Dallas, East Texas, or like, Mesquite, Rockwall, Greenville, Texas. No, this is like, I would say closer, I'm guessing, to the Louisiana-Arkansas border. If I take a random guess just by looking at the trees, because that part of East Texas does have those red oaks and those different types of trees in it for the landscape. The acting is really good. Of course, some of the children acting is, okay, but they're not really on the screen for that long. I think the premise of this movie of the, getting these kids out of the foster home is really, really good. I have two interesting or nitpicks, if you want to put it that way. We'll put it one that really bothered me in the very end. It's not about the whole story movie making. Actually, let's talk about that last because it's going to be no dive deeper. What I do wish is the writing wanted to flesh out more than I think it wanted to. And what I mean by that is there's a couple scenes where the mother breaks down, right? And she's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm ruining the relationship with my own daughter. And she goes into these different like territorial things where she's like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know if I want these adoption kids anymore. That should have been a bigger storyline. And what I mean by that is I want to know the dynamic between her and her biological daughter. But we're focused on Terry, which is fine because she's been through hell and back, like abuse and everything like that. But there are some arguments between Terry and her real daughter, but I want to know the mother's perspective of how she's trying to reconnect with their biological daughter. It really doesn't go into that. And there's another scene where, the adoption agency, the foster, agency of Texas, because they're adopting like 77 total as this community, where they're like, the state of Texas is really intrigued by this, what's happening in this small neck of the woods, where even at the very end of the story, they talk about how many kids were adopted and how many are still available in that 100-mile radius. But I kind of want to know what Texas thought of it. There is little, inklings, because Terry, she's been through multiple homes, etc., and they didn't have to do it this time. But I just want to know why or what was Texas doing to kind of help this town, because if they're doing 77 kids, that's a huge thing when you actually think about it. Yeah, she's like, well, that's a small number. But when you have a small town like Possum Trot do it, that's fantastic. All right, nothing about the movie, but this is my personal thing, right? So there's something at the end where Terry asks the adoption mother, does my mom love me? And she says, of course she does. I don't know if I agree with that. People are thinking, what do you mean? What do you mean? All right, this is what I mean. So this girl has been through rape. Her biological mother pimped her out, punched her in the face, and did other things, right? I don't know how you could love someone and punch a 10-year-old in the face, pimp her out to get raped, pimp her out to boyfriends, have her raped and get thrown in a ditch. They talk about that. This abuse of her. Physical, mental. And if a mother is willing to do that to her own daughter, I don't know if the mother actually loves the daughter. So that kind of irked me a little bit, because I'm like, I don't know if I could believe that. It's almost like, I can't. If a mother is willing to pimp out a 10-year-old, beat her, that's not love no more. But no, it's full stop. I can't believe that. And it's like, but this is a faith-based movie. You should. Sorry, I can't. At a point, there's some people that aren't worth saving, or they can't be saved. And I know that's completely goes against this. However, there's evil people in this world. There's serial killers in this world. And once you take life, or you rape children, or you do things like that, there's a special place in hell for you. And that is that. And people are saying, okay, is this faith-based? It is very much more faith-based than Sound of Freedom. So I'll tell you that right here, right now. A lot more church scenes, a lot more Bible verses, a lot more preaching from the Bible. So if you're not into faith-based movies, this might be a little bit of a turnoff more than Sound of Freedom. However, it's part of the community. So if you don't like what the community is doing, I don't know what to say. So overall, Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot, is a really well-crafted movie that does a different aspect of protect the children, but this time in the foster system. It looks great. It's a well-acted movie, but however, I wish some of the family elements with the biological daughter was prominent, as well as what is the state of Texas actually doing, because it feels like those are some things that are really important to keeping the family together and keeping this town together, but they really don't dive into it. So Sound of Hope will receive a 4 out of 5 with Futons, which equals at 80%. So see, the critics and user scores gave this one. So it looks like we have 5 critics already, and they're all positive. No critic consensus. So one gave it a 7 out of 10. We have an 8.5 out of 10. Then we have a 3 out of 4. And then we have a 3.5 out of 4. And then we have a 3.5 out of 5. So Angel Studios, and that's the other thing. Do we think Angel Studios has a hit on their hands? This is going to be their second biggest one behind Sound of Freedom. I truly think so. This is coming out 4th of July. And I do think it's going to easily crack 10-15 million first weekend, if it's just my guess. And it will do solid numbers. I truly think so. Anyway, 80, 100 right now. Chase Lack here at the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. One more thing's Futontopia. You Blue Futonians, thank you for watching. Have a great day. And I'll watch this tape tomorrow, a week from now, a month, or a year from now. I love every single freaking one of you. I'm intrigued, though. If this does buku numbers like Sound of Freedom, do you think it'll get more backlash from Rolling Stones? Good questions.